BioShock Infinite, his age, like, fine wine. I recently replayed this game in 2026, 13 years later after it came out, and I gotta say, it is held up very, very well. For the record, before we get into this is not fine wine. This is Walmart wine, guys. I got this for the woman. It worked for the intro. Whatever. For those who haven't played the game, here's a brief synopsis of what BioShock Infinite is. It's a linear, story-driven first-person shooter game, which is hard to find these days. You play as the protagonist named Booker DeWitt, and the theme throughout the game is find us the girl and wipe away the debt. That's your goal. You're trying to find a girl, give her to someone, and your debts will be washed away. You arrive at a city called Columbia. Columbia is like this perfect nationalist America that seems like nothing could ever go wrong here. Obviously, underneath the surface, that couldn't be further from the truth. You eventually do meet up with the girl named Elizabeth, events transpire, and, well, you'll just have to play the game to see what happens. I just wanted to give a brief synopsis, so now let's actually go ahead and talk about how the gameplay and the graphics hold up in 2026 for a game that's 13 years old. The gameplay actually still feels really smooth given this game is 13 years old. There's a lot of different weapons for you to possess throughout the game. It starts out simple with a pistol, then you get a machine gun, and then as the game progresses, you just unlock more and more weapons throughout the game. And it's not like an obvious unlock. You just happen to find a new weapon lying on the ground, and then you pick it up, and now you have a new weapon. You can carry 2 weapons into combat, which means that as the game progresses and you have more and more options to choose from, you have to start to really consider what weapons you want to take into the next battle. It's not some deep strategy game or anything like that, but there is a little bit of strategy involved, at least with your weapon choice, that makes you think, and I particularly enjoyed that. Furthermore, the vigor system, like your magical powers that you have, is really well done. I like the 8 powers you get. I mean, you can shoot crows, you can shoot fire, you can shock people, you can launch them into the air, you can like teleport to them and just grind their face off with this grapple hook you have on your hand that you unlock pretty early in the game. Even though the game's 13 years old, the combat's still really fast-paced. I mean, it lacks some momentum, and what I mean by that is modern games, you might be able to be running with a rifle and then you like mantle over something and then you do like a slide. That's not in this game, but I think that's fine. It's still really fast-paced. There's a major gameplay mechanic we haven't talked about yet, the skyline system. Using your grapple hook, you can launch to these skylines and then zip around the map through these, well, these rails, these skylines. And when you're zipping through these, you can like launch and attack an enemy with your grapple hook and just hit them straight in the face and like execute them. And this still holds up amazingly well. There's a lot of variety here, whether it's the weapon you have, the vigors, or the skyline, and especially when you combine the 3 of them. For example, you can be on the skyline and then you jump down, attack and melee an enemy in the face, use a power to lift everybody up, use another power to shock them. The shock chains to every single enemy. As they're all floating and shocking to death, you can just start shooting them with whichever gun you have equipped and just kind of level an entire battlefield with the abilities you have. The gear system still holds up pretty well, so you have a slot for your head, torso, legs, and feet. Just gear. It's not cosmetic, but it's stat boosting. Different gear gives you different stats as you play throughout the game. I've noticed a lot of the gear does have to do with the skyline. It gives you like stat boost when you're on the skyline, and I am not the best shot. When I'm on the skyline, I can't really shoot things that well, so I found myself not using the skyline gear as much. I think that's one little complaint. I wish there was less gear in the game that was related to skylines, but there's still a bunch of gear for you to use that can help your playthrough. There's a gear in the game called Storm, and if you use one of 3 vigors, Bucking Bronco, Devil's Kiss, or Shock Jockey, if you end up killing someone with that vigor, even if it's not powered up, it'll chain to another enemy. So when you have a vigor that's both powered up and you have Storm, like your vigor will just scatter throughout all of the enemies, and it's really useful in combat because you can just, especially with Shock Jockey, that was kind of my favorite, you would just stun a bunch of enemies and they would just be sitting there shaking and they weren't able to do anything, and while they're stunned, you can just hit them, shoot them, whatever you want, just take them out. One of the gameplay elements I haven't even talked about yet was Elizabeth, who is both the major part of the story and the gameplay. When you're in combat, Elizabeth will throw you salts, ammo, and health, which is really useful. You might run out of ammo, and like the moment you do, she'll throw you a rifle. Who knows where she finds this, but who cares? Booker will like pick it up, and now you have ammo. Same thing when you get low on health, same thing when you get low on salts. Salts, for those of you who haven't played, is like your magical power. You refill your salts, you can do more of the vigors and the magic powers. Outside of like combat, there's looting to do. There's secret areas to find. There's locks to be picked once you unlock Elizabeth. So that's another feature of Elizabeth. Once you unlock her in the game, there's doors that are locked, and she has a lock picking ability that's explained in the story why she has that. I mean, it's pretty simple, but the door has a lock on it. As long as you have lock picks, which you do need to find throughout the world, you just scavenge and find lock picks. But once you have enough for certain doors, you unlock it, and there can be some pretty good loot behind those doors.
Worth locking up.
Elizabeth?
Okay. All yours.
Perfect.
As you scavenge, there's upgrades you can get for your health, shield, and vigor. And as you increase your health, shield, and vigor, which by the way, I recommend shield and vigor first and foremost, as you upgrade these, you just get more powerful, you can do more damage, you can take more damage, and it's that classic progression that we all kind of love for any game. There's a lot of enemy variety in BioShock Infinite, whether it's from like the civilians and the police officers in the beginning of the game, to the robot turrets that shoot bullets or rockets at you, to once you get middle to end of the game, these heavy hitters like firemen, or like these handymen, which are like big robots that come at you. Motorized patriots, which are like a George Washington or Comstock, like literal robot that comes at you with a Gatling gun. It's awesome. I like the enemy variety. It keeps things fresh.
Can't find anything. Found salts. Catch, Booker.
Bunch of blood. Oh, the sight!
The graphics hold up really well, and I think it's because it's very stylistic. Whether it was the creative director or the art director, maybe a combination of the two, that made this game, that chose with this stylized approach, I think it was a phenomenal one. Rather than going for like a hyper-realistic graphic style, they went for this more cartoony but still stylized approach, and it holds up phenomenally 13 years later. In the game, right in the beginning, you get launched into Columbia, which is a floating city in the sky. And that first shot of you seeing the city is still really gorgeous to this day. I remember the first time I saw it when I played this game as a kid, and I just thought that looked gorgeous. And even now, 13 years later, I was still kind of surprised by how good it looked. I was waiting for it. I was expecting it. I was like, oh boy, here comes Columbia. And when it was revealed, I was like, damn, that actually really holds up more than I thought it would. Of course, it shows its age in some areas, more like hardware and or software limitations. Some of the models look older. The draw distance is very noticeable. You can tell in the distance that it's 2D images they have made that are supposed to look like buildings when they're really not buildings. The shadows kind of look jagged. You can see like shadows kind of like clip in sometimes. But overall, the game looks really good for how old it is. I mean, it's really stood the test of time. Do remember, this originally came out on the Xbox 360, which had 512 megabytes of RAM. I mean, that is nothing nowadays. Now that we've talked about gameplay and graphics, let's talk about the setting of the world and how it's very memorable and deserves its own chapter.
Will the circle be unbroken?
The setting and environment in this game is what really makes it memorable for me. When I think of BioShock Infinite, I think of Columbia. I think of the floating city with a ridiculous, extravagant amount of propaganda, nationalism going on. I mean, when you arrive, you're looking at statues of the founding fathers. You see a statue of a prophet. You see people talking a little crazy, like they're pretty brainwashed.
That statue, I just think it fails to capture Father Comstock's absolute, divinity.
There's a bunch of white people. There's not many brown people around. It's a pretty crazy world that you're inhabiting as you play this game. As you do travel throughout the game, so you start off like in, I don't know what to call it besides downtown Columbia. It's like the main part of Columbia. You eventually reach the pier, for example, and then you reach the factory, and the pier has its own kind of environment and feel to it versus the factory that has its own environment and feel to it. And then you reach like the slums, which feel really, really different compared to quote unquote downtown Columbia. It's like this dirty, broken down part of the city that you're really not supposed to see on the surface. Columbia is supposed to be perfect, but it's like these layers, man. Like it starts off perfect and then it ends in the slums with just broken down suffering and pain and peasants living down there. And each of these have their own feeling, and there's environment storytelling. When you look at the environment and slow down from running and gunning and just take a look at the wall, like the entire world is actually telling a story. You can learn about Colombia by looking at it.
I'm not like the rest. I'm a progressive.
That's really all I wanted to say about the setting. This is a pretty quick and short chapter. I just wanted to point it out because if you play this game, I think the setting is what you're going to remember. And those of you who have played, I hope you agree that the setting is pretty unique in this game and it's awesome to experience for the first time. So now that we've talked about the setting, let's go ahead and talk about the story and if it holds up in 2026.
Bring us the girl and wipe away the dead!
So, the story of this game. First off, right off the bat, this is not some kind of story analysis video. There's plenty of other videos on YouTube that would be better than I could do about that. If you're interested, I recommend check it out. I really just want to give a quick rundown of the story and then my thoughts on it and if it was enjoyable. The short answer is yes, you can certainly enjoy it. For me, I was very engaged from the beginning to the end. Right from the beginning, when you get off into the boat, walk up the light tower, get launched into the city, and then start to figure out like what you're even walking into. I'm going to go ahead and play about a minute of the lighthouse scene just to kind of showcase the vibe of what I really love about the intro here. Let's take a look.
What in the world is...
Make yourself ready, Pilgrim. The bindings are there as a safeguard.
No, no, God damn it!
Ascension. Ascension in the count of 5. Count of 4.
No.
3, 2, 1.
No!
Ascension. Ascension.
Just stay calm.
5,000 feet. 10,000 feet. 15,000 feet. Hallelujah.
I don't know about you, but that intro just gets me really excited, especially the first time I saw it. It's like, what is going on? What's happening? You get launched into this crazy floating city, and it's just, to me, it really intrigued me, and I think most people would probably say the same when they play it. So let's get back on track and talk about the story and what's actually going on here. Again, you play as the protagonist, Booker DeWitt, and you're trying to bring the girl and wipe away the debt. That is a message that you hear over and over throughout the game, and that's what you're trying to achieve. Along the way, you run into a religious figure named Comstock. Comstock is like the leader of this Columbia world, and when you walk through, you eventually get labeled the false shepherd, which Booker he doesn't know anything about at first. There's these initials AD on his right wrist or hand, and that's what the false shepherd is. That's what this entire community has been brainwashed to prepare. The false shepherd is going to lead the lamb away from like the herd. The lamb is Elizabeth. That's the girl that you're trying to get.
We've got to do something about that! Bitch! Wait! It's him!
Now, where'd you get that brand, boy? Don't you know that makes you the backstabbing snake in the grass false shepherd? And we ain't letting no false shepherd into our flock. Show 'em what we got planned, boys!
Comstock is like this larger than life figure. I mean, he has giant statues, he has literal mechanical robots with his face on it that attack you throughout the game. He kind of put himself in the same tier as the Founding Fathers. So I've mentioned the Founding Fathers in this game, they're like worshipped, and so is Comstock. He's literally worshipped. He's like the religious prophet and supreme leader of this world that you're walking through. You eventually find Elizabeth, and she ends up having this power where she can open a tear. And a tear is this like space-time concept where she can enter an alternate different universe. After you find Elizabeth, you run into this big bird called Songbird that Comstock actually designed to keep Elizabeth like in check, to keep her powers in check. Things transpire. You eventually are in this other dimension where Booker is actually a martyr for the revolution. The revolution is the Vox Populi. The Vox Populi is like a faction that Comstock has been fighting against, and they're like the revolutionaries. They're pushing up against everything that Comstock stands for. And in this alternate universe, like Booker is like a martyr for it. You meet the leader of the Vox Populi, which is Daisy Fitzroy. There's a lot more to the story that I'm not talking about here, but I just wanted to get the point across that to me, this is all very interesting. I found the story very engaging. I wanted to see what happened next every step of the way. And I didn't really remember the story that well because it's been over a decade since I played it. I was a kid last time I played it, so I didn't even really understand everything that was going on anyways. And now that I'm older as an adult and I'm replaying it, I just really found myself enjoying it a lot.
Hi there. Guitar.
Will the circle be unbroken by and by? By and by is a better home awaiting in the sky.
If you give this game a shot, if you haven't played it before, or if you're replaying it, I think in either scenario, you're definitely going to be engaged the whole time as you play through this game, and you're going to be interested in what happens next. So really, the only negative to the story that I have is the ending. Some people really like it, some people despise it. I personally am mixed on it. Fair warning that there are spoilers here, so if you want to not know what the end of the game is, we're going to talk about it, so you might want to skip to the propaganda chapter of the video. In the end, Elizabeth unlocks her full capabilities. Comstock has been kind of nerfing her power, and it gets unnerfed. She gets a buff, and she's really powerful. She can open literally infinite universes. That's where the name BioShock Infinite comes from. And in the end, a bunch of Elizabeths meet up from different universes, and they end up drowning Booker. And the reason they do that is because Booker actually was Comstock.
Who are you?
You chose to walk away, but in other oceans, you didn't. You took the baptism. You were born again as a different man.
Comstock.
It all has to end, to have never started. Not just in this world, but in all of ours.
Smother him in the crib.
Smother. Before the choice is made. Before you are reborn.
What name shall you take, my son?
He's Zachary Comstock. He's Booker DeWitt.
No. They're both.
When Booker gave his daughter away, which is who Elizabeth actually is, his daughter was named Anna. Anna becomes Elizabeth because Comstock takes Anna as his own. He renames Anna to Elizabeth, and then out of regret for giving his daughter Anna away, Booker gets baptized and becomes Comstock, which it's like this big brain fuck. The issue I have with the end when they drown Booker is, to me, it feels like Booker's only dead in that one timeline. You know, the goal was to prevent Comstock from ever existing because he's so evil, but it's like, well, he still exists in all these other universes, right? And it's kind of vague. Like, all the Elizabeths disappear at the end. There's a post-credit scene where Booker hears a cry from Anna in the room. So maybe it was all undone. Maybe since he never gave Anna away, he never becomes Comstock. He just lives like a normal life and none of the events happen. But I don't know how drowning Booker in this one universe stops all the other universes from happening. And so it kind of just makes the ending feel less impactful to me. But that's really my biggest gripe. I've never been a big fan of the multi-universe stuff. If you love multi-universe stuff, you'll love the ending. I mean, without a doubt. But I personally am not a huge fan of it. I kind of wish they would have just found a way to not have like infinite universes. But either way, I still really enjoyed the story as I was playing through it. It was very engaging. I do like the ending. I'm more mixed on it, I should say. I'm mixed on the ending. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm just kind of somewhere in the middle. But the rest of the story was phenomenal. So now that we've talked about the story, let's go ahead and talk about the propaganda that's found in this game and some of the political messages and how that applies to the modern world way more than we thought it would. So this could very easily get more political than I'd want it to. I'm no political expert. I don't really want this video to be that, but it is very interesting when you look at the world of Columbia and BioShock Infinite. You have this hyper nationalism. We're talking about Comstock here. He's building this perfect America the way the founding fathers intended it to be, according to Comstock. It's very much for just one particular group of people, and not just white people, by the way. Like even Irish people are segregated in the world of Columbia, but obviously black people are not liked very much. On the flip side, you have the Vox Populi, completely different than Comstock. They kind of hate white people so much that the leader, Daisy Fitzroy, was actually willing to shoot a white child until Booker and Elizabeth stopped it from happening.
This is what needs to be done. You see, the founders ain't nothing but weeds. Cut them down and they just grow back. If you want to get rid of the weed, you gotta pull it up from the root.
So you have this extreme, like far right, if you think of it that way, views. This like extreme far left views, if you think of like the Vox Populi like that. It's not a direct one-to-one, but that's kind of what it's representing in a way. The modern world is like this today. We have very extreme politics on the left, very extreme politics on the right, in the same way that Booker and Elizabeth were kind of caught in the middle of this battle. Like they just had their own goals. They were trying to achieve their own thing, not really related to Comstock's agenda or the Vox Populi's agenda. They got trapped in the middle big time. And that's kind of what happens to like normal people like us. Like a lot of us kind of just get caught between this crazy politics war that the entire West seems to be going through. It's a very divided time. Neighbors won't talk to each other if they don't agree with one another's politics, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know how we got here. That's not very healthy though. And as I was playing BioShock, with just how exaggerated like the politics of that game were, how exaggerated Comstock was, and how exaggerated the Vox Populi were when they had the power over Comstock, and they were just both really just gone, like they were crazy. It just made me realize, like, it kind of feels like that's the world we live in sometimes. It was just kind of an unsettling thought, you know? That's really all I wanted to say here. This is a pretty short section. I'm sure you could go way more in depth with this than I feel like doing at this time, but it's just a very interesting parallels between a video game's extreme politics and how they somehow match the world 13 years later. I think way more than they did at the time when the game released. And so that's why I think BioShock Infinite has aged like fine wine. The gameplay and graphics still hold up really well. The setting is very memorable. The story is engaging, and the propaganda found in the game is scarily close to what we hear in the real world today. So go ahead and give BioShock a try if you haven't played it. If you have, it's just been a decade, give it a replay. That's about it. I'll catch you in the next one.